So it's official. Nikki Freeman from Obsession is going to be a roaming scare actor at Universal Studios' Halloween Horror Nights 35 in Hollywood. And to absolutely no one's surprise, the internet blew up. They immediately started losing their minds. And for a lot of cases, it's for other reasons other than hype. And so with this topic and with Halloween Horror Nights quickly approaching, I really wanted to jump in here, give my own little perspective on this situation, not just as a horror fan, but as like a theme park fan and an HHN regular, and someone who loves to look at these horror movies, and how they actually get translated into these real life experiences, especially with Halloween Horror Nights. And so at the end of the day, we really got to ask, is this a really cool atmospheric move, or did Universal make a bad call? So let's talk about it. The first thing you absolutely have to look at is the numbers, man. Obsession is currently the 7th highest grossing horror film of all time, sitting just a mere about $10 million behind Jaws by the time that I am recording this. It's a Focus Features and Blumhouse production, both which are Universal, NBC Universal, Comcast, NBC Universal companies. So of course this is going to show up in the parks eventually. I mean, especially with the success. And now before I really get too deep into this, Nikki is 100% the victim of the movie. And Bear is 100% the fucking villain. There's no doubt about that. And anyone who's saying otherwise is just plain wrong. Now, I have talked about Obsession a lot on this channel, but most notably, if you want my full breakdown theory about the dual identity wish Nikki, you should go check out that video whenever we are done here. But that's where I really go in depth about how both versions of Nikki are victims of Bear. Now, the main pushback that I've seen personally online about Nikki being in the parks really comes down to a very real concern. Why are we taking a character who is a victim of severe physical trauma, as I'll say, and assault, turning her into a horror attraction for people to kind of walk by and get jump scared by or kind of talk to, whatever. And look, that is undoubtedly true and valid criticism. But we also have to take a step back and look at the horror genre as a whole, and of course, HHN history. This is really what horror is all about, unfortunately. And when I say that, I mean that horror digs into the deepest, darkest parts of humanity. And it's taking this real world trauma and turning it into some scary monsters or some ghosts. And with that, I've seen a lot of people quoting Reagan from The Exorcist as their best example with how she was a major victim. And I think that's a fantastic point. But you can also look at so many other horror characters, especially those that have appeared at HHN throughout the years. You have Mia from Evil Dead 2013, an innocent bystander dealing with severe addiction and physical violation who gets turned into a deadite. We have Alessa Gillespie from Silent Hill, another victim of extreme physical violence whose pain literally manifests into some hellish, blood-soaked world. Samara from The Ring, a traumatized kid who was thrown down a well who comes back as a cursed spirit. And of course, Alice from Evil Dead Burn, a victim of domestic abuse who also happens to be at HHN 35 this year, too, with the franchise having its own house on both coasts. Every single franchise and name that I just listed here has appeared in the Universal parks for Halloween Horror Nights. Now, I can already hear you typing down there in the comments.
Okay, King Richie, but in those movies, the demon or the ghost is the horror. In Obsession, Bear's the actual villain, so why isn't Bear walking around the park?
And honestly, I agree. I mean, imagine having Bear roam around as some desperate, frantic loser holding a one-wish willow, kind of being all weird and shit, like walking around kind of terrorizing guests. I think that'd be fucking hilarious and fun and stupid. It'd be great. But when you look at the film Obsession as it is, Nikki is the one that is delivering this horror in Obsession. She's the one that's doing the jump scares. She's the one creeping out of the corner of the bedroom, watching Bear sleep, stabbing herself in the face with a broken bottle, doing the whole contorted backwards walk shit. All that scary shit in the movie comes from Nikki. Yes, Bear is the real villain behind it all, absolutely. But Nikki is the face of the horror of the film. And not only that, that's seen in a lot of the promotional stuff. And that is why Nikki is the one that's walking around Universal. And I'd love to see both of them walking around the parks, but Universal's just going with Nikki. While the movie debate, is interesting, the real problem with Nikki roaming the streets isn't just film theory, it's how people act in these parks. With the rise of social media and influencers, HHN has been a different beast over the last few years. I've only been to the event about 3 or 4 years now at this point. And I mean, just look at what happened over here in Orlando with Megan and Art the Clown in back-to-back years. I mean, when Art was roaming, or when the Megans were doing their sets in the Blumhouse Scare Zone, or the other Megans that were doing their dances on the street, I mean, I'm sure that there were hella nights that were just god-awful for these actors, man. People were running around, shoving cameras all up in their face, trying to climb on the stage for Megan, just not knowing how to fucking act, dude. And personally, myself, having been a scare actor in years past, I know exactly how some people act like absolute idiots, while a lot of guests are just our little baby angels that we gotta protect. Nikki, at surface level, is an obsessed girlfriend. And an insanely attractive woman at that, Indy Navarrete, the woman that you are. Giving this role to a young scare actor trying to make a name for themselves in the company is really fun acting opportunity. I mean, imagine. It'd be a great opportunity for them, and it will be. But it also opens them up to a ton of weirdos in these crowds. Now, this is also where the difference between the two coasts come really into play. If you're a theme park goer and you've visited both coasts, whether it be Disneyland, Disney World, Universal, whatever, California handles roaming characters way differently than Orlando, both in Disneyland and Universal. I mean, in California, characters are able to essentially freely roam, and honestly, the crowds in Hollywood are just different. They're a much more respectful crowd. Could you put a roaming Nikki Freeman in Universal Orlando right now with these crowds? Absolutely not. My pitch would be to keep Nikki on the top of the Islands of Adventure lighthouse and don't ever let her come down, because theme park crowds in Orlando can be fucking freaks. This Hollywood run kind of feels like a trial run for Universal. As I've seen firsthand, Universal definitely takes the safety and security of their scare actors very seriously. They have a zero tolerance for any bullshit. Nikki is going to have probably some of the tightest security in the park that we're going to see. Probably going to have multiple attendants walking around with her. And now, of course, that's just what I'm imagining. I guess we'll have to see how the run actually goes. But if this run does go well out west, it basically guarantees Obsession is going to be coming to HHN 36. I think that's already guaranteed, whether it be Orlando and Hollywood. I think it's going to be a full house next year. But I guess we'll see about roaming characters. And at the end of the day, do I think Nikki roaming the parks is a bad idea? No. As a huge Obsession fan, and many alike, I'm excited to see it and to travel out to Hollywood to see it. But am I 100% convinced that it's a great idea without any drama? Also, no. It's really going to come down to who shows up in the parks. And how they portray Nikki in the parks. You know, keeping that scare actor safe is the priority here. All your criticisms are 100% valid. And if you do go to HHN 35, enjoy the event. It's truly the premier Halloween event. And, you know, if you happen to be attracted to obsessive Latinas, don't be a fucking weirdo about it, all right? I get it. You can have a type and not be weird, all right? We've seen it from both ends of the spectrum with the guys and gals with Megan and Terrifier. So, y'all, calm your pants, buckle down, be courteous, all right? Please, be respectful, stay positive, and I'm curious what y'all think about this with HHN coming up. So let me know in the comments below. And with all that being said, if you made it this far and you still have not subscribed, why not? You're already here. Y'all, thank you all so much for being here. I really do appreciate all the love and support on the channel. If you did enjoy the video, please leave it a like because it does help me out so much. And I'm going to see you all in the next one. Peace.